My name is India Martin. I am the U.S. Ambassador for WOW, or one of the U.S. Ambassadors for WOW, and I'm here leading an amazing delegation of women from the U.S., of African American women from the U.S.
And I'm Julia Brown. I am one of the delegation that India Martin just referenced as the U.S. one of the 6 U.S. delegates attending this conference.
The way the process works for WOW is there's a variety of think-ins. And think-ins bring people from all walks of life into the building to have conversations about the themes and the topics and things that we need to do. So the first WOW was in 2010, and it was still quite big, but now I think WOW sells out like a month in advance of even, of the festival starting. So in terms of the preparation, I mean, we are starting the preparation for 2019 on Monday. So it literally, WOW, is a WOW, and it literally goes through the entirety of the year. There are a variety of things that happen in preparation and theming.
Yeah, so I definitely have experienced that. I'm currently the Chief Procurement Officer of Carnival Corporation, and the maritime industry has been historically and still remains to be a pretty male-dominated industry, but I'm one of 6 women in leadership there, and I'm really proud of what our company is doing to really build a pipeline of diversity. I will tell you that in the last 25 years, I've worked in a variety of organizations that again have been quite male-dominated. So what's really critical as a woman is, how do you create the right brand for yourself so that you can continue to perform and excel and transform such that you can be successful in these environments where you typically tend to be the only or maybe one of a handful. The thing that I would say is that I think of 3 things: curiosity, confidence, and courage. And in many ways, as women, it's really beholden of us to really demonstrate those things. And I think a lot of times what tends to hold us back is both the confidence to believe that we deserve and own the seat at the table when we get it, and the courage to really truly speak up and speak your truth. And what I have learned is that by demonstrating curiosity, being curious about how do I make the business better, how do I really empower others and really use that strength to drive the business, the confidence to keep going when there's obstacles in front of you, and the courage to really stand up and fight for the few things that really matter. You don't fight for everything, but you fight for the courage to really fight for the things that truly make the difference. That's been the key to being successful in the corporate environment.
I think for me, because I'd like to answer that too, I think that women, we have primary care responsibilities too. And so if, whether it be elder parents or whether it be children or whomever, primary care for somebody usually falls to us, which requires a level of, in addition to the kind of bicultural competency required to be female in a male space, if you layer onto that black and then female in a male space, it's kind of a tricultural competency. And then when you talk about the fact that we're the primary carers, it's kind of a quad cultural competency. So there are 4 things that we have to consider before we even walk in the door. And so when you talk about barriers, a part of that is the acknowledgement that, as women, there's a lot more going on for us. I used to always tell my male colleagues, when they would say, okay, we need to fly to Tokyo tomorrow, when I was in the banking world, I would say, that's good for you, but I'm the wife that you have at home. So I'm still that wife to my husband and still that mother to my children when I go home, but you have that person at home to do those things, right? So it's just, I think for women, we have the quad cultural competency, particularly as black women, it's quad. That means that we have to be able to navigate a variety of things before we step in the door, and we do it amazingly well. That's the thing. I mean, that's where the gift of multitasking comes in, because we're able to do that, but the pressure can be really great, and people opt out for that pressure, and understandably so.
So I've had the opportunity to work for 6 incredible global companies. So Procter & Gamble, Diageo, Gillette, Clorox, Kraft, Mondelez, and now Carnival Corporation. What I've been particularly proud of is 5 of those 6 companies, the roles that I went into were newly creative. So I had to create, invent, and transform. And as a result of being able to do that, in the first example where I had to do that, I started to build a reputation of being able to recreate, reinvent, and transform. And I've actually applied that into my personal life. So the one thing that I've shared with India and others is I actually was significantly overweight for a good portion of my life, and I did not realize the extent to which that was actually a barrier that I didn't realize how significant it was. And in a year, I lost about 120 pounds. And all naturally. And what happened after that was the whole world it opened up for me. And I didn't realize that while I thought that some of the barriers that I had experienced were really primarily because I was black and female, and I couldn't separate those two things, what I learned after having lost that dramatic amount of weight was the bigger barrier for me was weight. Because that's actually viewed as something that you can control, right? And so when you don't control it and people see it, it can actually impact the view of others of your level of leadership and competency. And so for me, having lost that was a pretty big highlight because it shifted the world, and it shifted how not only others viewed my leadership, but how I viewed my leadership. And then and being able to talk about that and share that experience has really been it's been transformational.
I think for me, it's probably, so I was in investment banking my entire career, and my career was a very global one. So I started in New York, then I came to London, then I went to Frankfurt, then I went to Tokyo, then I went to Hong Kong, and then I came back to London. And I was the youngest black female MD in Europe for a very long time. And there were only 2, but I was quite young in my career journey to have made managing director at that time, and the most senior black woman in Europe. And I think the most important thing for me is not that, it's what it enabled me to do. And the role model that I was able to be. And actually like Julia, and she tells this story in terms of how she's hired people. My team, it was a huge team. I had the ability to bring in women, bring in black women. My team looked like the United Nations. And it was really reflective of what my life was. And so to be able to have the opportunity to really shape what I believed is by far my biggest achievement in the space.
So the one person in my personal life, and in terms of a powerful woman, and she's actually been named on Fortune and Forbes' most powerful list, was the CEO of Kraft Foods originally, and then she became then the CEO of Mondelez, and she's just recently stepped down. Her name is Irene Rosenfeld. But I think she was quite pivotal in my career, because at the time that I became the Chief Procurement Officer at Kraft Foods, it was a $42 billion company. I was 35 years old. I did not think it was possible to take on such a huge responsibility. I had responsibility for over $30 billion of the company spent on a global basis with a team of well over 1,500 people. But she said to me, she goes, I love how you think about the business, and if you join us, we will have the opportunity to rewrite how we change the trajectory of this company. I want you to be on the team. And so having that role model, have the confidence and courage to actually take on somebody that was at the time relatively unproven in such a large environment, for her to do that, I felt like I couldn't let her down, and I didn't want to let the company down, and that led to really building a much more global profile of being able to transform organizations. But I don't think I would have done it had it not been for her believing in me.
For me, it's kind of closer to home. And it's my mother and my grandmother who, as Black American women, did a whole lot at a time when Black American people couldn't. So my grandmother, who's now 97, bless her heart, went back and got her university degree when she was almost 60 years old to go and teach. And she'd been an associate teacher all this time, like an assistant teacher, and then she decided at 60, I have to finish my university degree. And that for me was hugely inspirational.
I go back to curiosity, confidence, and courage. But then when you achieve that position, pay it forward. Bring somebody behind you. And at least one. At least one.
At least. I say bring 100.
Exactly.
Bring 100. I would say know that it's yours and that you can. Like,
Exactly.
if there are no, people are always going to put up barriers. People will always have reasons why you can't, but you can't believe that you can't.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Like, a barrier for me, and I try to encourage people to think of it this way, it's just something you walk around. You know, you just can't walk through it, you just walk around it. So you figure out your ways around, as opposed to being focused on the fact that it's in front of you.
Right.
There are options, and you go over, you go around, you go under, it doesn't matter. But a barrier is just something that's in the way. And so I think just encouraging people to understand that we are our biggest barriers. We allow those things which we think impede us to stop us, and they don't. And that we have to kind of find our ways around, over, under, or whichever way it may happen.
Mm-hmm.